YouTube, how are we doing? Hope everybody is having a great day. We're back for another session, and if you've been following along recently, you'll notice that we've been doing a few little switch up sessions. Most recently, doing a little bit different in terms of what we would have hoped for in terms of the perfect split, but that also kind of goes to show that there is no perfect split. You just got to keep consistent in getting your sessions in. So today's going to be actually no different. We're actually going to be training in a slightly new environment, checking out a new gym. Might be the gym that we'll be using for a little while. So excited to see what the facilities are like and what the kind of equipment and things that we can do to do today's back day. So again, I appreciate everybody who's been following along so far. I appreciate all those that have tuned in and shown their support, shown their love. And hopefully you'll enjoy this back day because it's going to be me checking out a new gym, maybe slightly different equipment. Might have to program a little bit on the fly, which is a nice little thing to bring out the coach in me, so to speak. But basically, the facility that we were currently at, it's just that little bit too far away. There are more local facilities, so want to shorten that journey time so that I can focus a little bit more on getting stuff done. So that's the reason. And the one thing I just want to say about the splits is it also shows that there is no perfect split. Over this past week, we've had a couple of extra days off. We were traveling, using a push-pull session, doing more of an upper rather than having those two on separate days, having a quicker, more blast type session with greater number of sets. So again, there's no kind of suboptimal here. It's all about the consistency and getting your program in whichever way you can, because sometimes life happens and you've just got to adapt your training to it. We shouldn't be losing sleep over getting an extra day off and things like that. A trophy and things where we use these weekly net stimulus models and all that kind of stuff. As long as you get back on the horse and you get back on the horse in a fairly quick duration, don't go and have 2 weeks off kind of thing, you should be all right as long as it's a couple of days here and there. So body feeling great, mind is recovered, everything is feeling pretty good right now. Still floating in and around the same weight, so that maintenance calories is doing its thing. And then there is going to be the cut coming up, so that'll be a nice little switch up. So make sure you tune in for the rest of this episode because it is a good little new experience back day. We'll have some familiar faces in there in terms of the actual exercises, but we might end up hitting some slightly different variations based on what machines and what equipment we've got available. So we'll see you once we're in the gym.
Alright everyone, so I have to record a voiceover because we forgot to turn our mic on, which I honestly didn't realize the mic was off for a pretty long time during this session. So going to give you a little taster of what we've got going on in terms of our session today. So we kicked things off with a wide grip lat pull down. We hit this for a little warm-up set, and then we hit 2 sets of working weight for the day where it was in the range of 7 to 11 repetitions. So pretty wide rep range. Again, just kind of different varying intensities. So it's more so about getting to failure within these working sets rather than hitting a specific rep number, so to speak. So I could go a little heavier, could go a little lighter. I think at that point I'm starting to say some stuff, but I have no idea what I was literally saying there, so I won't even try and lip sync it. So again, what we actually did for our second working set is a slight back off set, just to get a slightly higher repetition number. It's been a kind of theme in my current program to do one heavier set and then one lighter set. We could technically do 2 heavier sets if we wanted to, but I'm kind of switching it up a little bit, seeing how this goes within this current block, especially kind of on maintenance calories where I don't think fatigue is going to actually be an issue for me in terms of recovery session to session here on this split. So once we hit that, we then go into a different variation. We had the hammer strength high-low row, so we're able to continue our typical theme of what we've done in the past. And again, similar format here in terms of pushing those repetitions to failure. And generally within this one, I also include a at length and partial, so past failure, partial, just as kind of a guide to know that I'm actually done with the set. And so we can do this typically either two arms. I like to do it unilaterally. I kind of like the more mind muscle connection, so to speak, even though that's kind of a bit overrated. But I definitely feel my lats more when I'm doing this unilaterally than bilaterally. So I think that's because of the bit of stability that we can create and the slight different length tension relationship position that we can get ourselves in by shifting over the seat just slightly, and also allowing kind of the rib cage and everything else to rotate just that little bit to get a deeper stretch on the lats. And so again, we're just hitting 2 sets here, nothing crazy. A little bit of a back off again, I think, in terms of this set, and we went for a slightly higher repetition range than before. And it was nice to see this bit of kit in LA Fitness, because I was thinking that we weren't going to see this high-low row and that I was going to have to do some variation for it and substitute it. But having that there was a bonus, so I'm glad that we were able to get these in, because this has definitely been one of my more favorite exercises to do in my program so far. And I'm actually thinking about putting it in earlier in the lift, so kind of because it's a bit more fatiguing in terms of the unilateral load, and obviously that affects the central nervous system, especially when you can do greater than your bilateral deficit in load. So with that in mind, I might actually switch things up as I'm thinking about things recording this voiceover for this specific session. And so we just got our last few reps here, and again, the kind of thought process is try and be as fast as possible in the concentric, get a kind of at lengthened partial past failure partial, and then move on to our next exercise. So we would have had T-bar row here, so chest supported T-bar row, but they didn't have that machine in this gym. So I went with more of the lower row cable variation, and I can already hear some of the science-based lifting community out there screaming that, oh shit, this is not as efficient because the chest isn't supported, but we had to make do with what we've got. And so keeping those elbows in nice and tight. So again, a little bit more of a lat focused day and lat focused row. And then what I actually ended up doing was going with straps on the second set, because I do feel like on this one with my horizontal row that I do get a little bit of grip fatigue, especially at this point in the session. So to maximize the motor unit recruitment going to the back and not having grip be a limiting factor is the reason why I put the straps on the handle. And it might be time to actually invest in some new straps, ones with the hooks on there, so that we can actually not have to faff around with looping it around with the kind of Iron Mind grips, which are a little bit more of a barbell type strap rather than straps for rows and things like that. But they serve their purpose for right now, and I'm being a bit of a cheapo, not investing in more straps. So then we moved on to the other isolateral row, with it being the low row. Again, this similar theme, slightly higher volume for this exercise. So we are getting a lot of blast on the lats and the mid-back within this session, and that is kind of a focus. Now, you'll notice that we're keeping things to 2 working sets per exercise. So the reason for that is I do like to still get quite a bit of set volume for a specific muscle in the session, and generally I like to split it between these different exercises so we get different length tension relationships and we expose the muscle to different positions, so hopefully recruiting various different fibers to aid in the specific movements. So that's why we kind of start with more of our vertical pull with a lat pull down, and then we go through, and then we're into the kind of more low row type variation here. So again, we hit 2 sets of this, and I'm not using straps, although I think in the future I probably would for this variation as well, but I don't feel like it is grip that's the limiting factor in this specific row variation and this position, so it's not that big of a deal. But just if you're in doubt, you might as well use them, so we might as well not put any other limiting factors on the table. So in the future, that's going to be kind of a point that I'm going to make, is using straps for all of these exercises, including the lat pull down variation. Now we had to switch this one up compared to what we've typically done, because we've normally used a machine to do our trap shrugs, but didn't have that machine available to us. We could have used cable stack, but I decided to just go over the dumbbell rack and get some done. And this is another case example of where grip became the limiting factor at this point in the session. So switched over to straps straight away and just got a few more reps in, and then taking this one to complete failure, even with the straps, which was a few more repetitions, and then we finished it off. And it was one of those where, can you do this with different variations? Yeah, possibly. The dumbbells only went up to 100, so that's my other reason for why I'm using 100s and not nothing heavier than that. But we got the job done, quick little trap blast, and then we move on. Now, this exercise was actually kind of a funny one, and I wish I had my audio that I had during the session, because you'll kind of see me start to freak out. Because I'm like, why the hell is this so hard on my right arm? Like, at this rep, I'm like, oof, that's 3 rep max. I had to change my grip up because I was like, okay, maybe it's grip that's limiting me here. And this was normal working weight that I'm supposed to be going for 8 to 12. So I was like, I'm not really understanding what's going on here, but okay, let's roll with it. And then I hit the left side, and this one's moving a lot more smoother, moving a lot more easier, and the loads don't feel that hard or heavy. And for me, it was kind of like a bit of a brain moment where I start looking up, like, is this machine even working? Because I think I could have repped it out all day. I slowed the tempo down a slight little bit just to kind of get that feeling of time under tension, which we can argue is important or not on that eccentric there. But as you can see, I smash out a lot more repetitions than I did on my right hand side. So there's something going on with the resistance profile on this specific one, which got me to the point where I'm like, okay, maybe I need to lean a little bit further forward, use my shoulder into the pad. And again, I'm like, there's no way. I even dropped down the weight on this one, and it's just not moving at all. You can see in my face how much harder it is on this right hand side. So I'm not sure what's going on with this machine here, but the resistance profile was all over the place, probably broken, needs to be serviced, and LA Fitness should probably do a little bit of an inspection on this one. But we got the job done. We ground out some reps. I apologize for the facials on this one. And then once again, the left side was flying compared to the right. So I don't think I have a strength deficit, especially when the right side is my most dominant side. So I was still definitely sus in terms of what this machine's resistance profile was actually doing. And then further in our accessory block, we got some back extensions in. We've seen this before. There isn't a glute ham raise machine that I could find immediately in the gym. So we did a little plate Roman chair instead. And this is just one where we're hitting those erectors. I definitely felt it in the lumbar spine. And because of the load, we do a shit ton of reps for this one. And as we've been doing in the previous sessions, we superset this with an ab exercise. And because this machine was right next door, I decided that we would do some leg raises. I actually do like the feel of this machine when it comes to my leg raises. You've probably seen in the previous videos that I generally use dip bars and things like that. But this one is the happy medium for leg raises if you don't have access to dip bars. And it's a little bit better than doing the hanging variation. So we just smash these out, repping it out to failure. Obviously, there's no external load other than body weight. So we try and just stay controlled, feel the burn, and get to the point where we can't push any more reps. So we actually hit 3 sets of this little superset here. And what happens is I actually realized after this set that my mic isn't working because I noticed that the blue light had turned off while it was kind of doing this specific movement. So I apologize that it took that long to actually realize, but we do regain function of our mic here in a second once this set is finished.
So it looked like the mic died. Hopefully that just happened and it hasn't been going for a while. But if it does, I apologize. You're just going to hear a cool little soundtrack instead. So we'll go another set of leg raises, and then we'll finish up with some of our calf exercises. Alright, we do have one more set of these, so a little minute 30 rest before we hit the next one. And then we have calf raises to... Alright, last set here, and then we hit our accessory calf work. Okay. Alright. We got calves. And then we're out. We typically don't leg press calf raise, but we have only a few options here. That's really light. Gotta add more plates. Oh. Let's either add more plates or add a shit ton of reps. And typically we've been doing the bent over calf raise at about 400. So throw an extra 180 on there for good measure. And then we're just gonna rep it out to failure. All right, take 2. That's a little bit better. Alright, so we do length and partial failure, or failure in the length and partial position. Sorry, past failure length and partials with this. And the cool thing about the leg press, similar to any kind of calf raise machine in a sense, but the good thing about the leg press is when you do fail, you don't even have to unrack the spotter arms. Just keep them where they're at, because that whole calf raise motion is that perfect distance between the spotter rail and your plantar flexion. So I like actually doing these, and probably will throw them back in the rotation, honestly. Just the pain in the arse is loading it up and putting all the plates on, taking all the plates off. But we would be in the end of the workout. It's not the end of the world. And you could, on leg day, do your leg press variation, and then with the leg press weights, do your calf raises as well as like a little bit of a mini superset. So that's another option, especially if you're kind of thinking about time and being efficient with your time. So we'll take a few more minutes, a few more seconds rest here. Calves are still a little bit burning, which generally speaking, especially the soleus, being kind of comprised a little bit more of your slow twitch fibers, normally has a slight better endurance aspect than the gastroc does. So that's where, again, that bent knee calf raise, you can go a lot longer and do a lot more repetitions, because you're kind of taking the gastroc out of it, and it's a little bit more soleus, and soleus is a bit more of an endurance type muscle. So that's one thing where I still think there's utility to the bent knee calf raise, especially for the tendon, the Achilles tendon, and for straining the soleus, because there doesn't seem to be any differences between straight knee and bent knee for the soleus, or slightly bit better for bent knee, but equivalent. So the argument is always, well, why not just do the straight knee? But my thing is, sometimes with the load, it might be the tendon adaptations that we're looking for, and normally bent knee calf raises the limiting factor is actually the machine itself, being able to get enough plates on there. But I still wouldn't rule it out as being a functional exercise. It just might not be as good for hitting the whole calf complex as the straight leg exercise. Oh, okay. So we are doing slightly different foot positioning just to potentially hit medial calf a little bit more and then lateral calf as well. I definitely need to get my left calf up slightly. So what I'm probably going to start doing is adding in an extra set for my left side. So to see if volume is the thing that allows slightly better growth. So that's going to be my individual case study, because last week we did our arm throws. We had slightly smaller bicep, slightly smaller calf, same size quad or thigh basically, so not too shabby there. And then shoulder, although we did a bilateral, we also did like individual shoulder underneath the armpit, and left side was slightly smaller than right side. So essentially bis and tris, shoulder, probably chest if we could measure the same pec sizes, and then calf. All of those I'm going to throw an extra set in, and then honestly lat has been a bit of a focus as well. So in some of the single arm exercises on back day starting next week, we'll also hit one extra set to failure for the left side. So we're going to do that individual case study, see after a block of training, 6 weeks, 10 weeks, 12 weeks, keep checking in with the arm throws and seeing if any differences occur. Now, it's not DEXA, it's not MRI, it's not ultrasound, it's not muscle biopsy or anything like that, but it's just a limb girth, so a bit of a proxy, but a measure nonetheless, and a bit more of an applied type case study. Alright, session done. We are actually close to my local grocery store, so might do a little grocery episode as well, but we'll see. Oh.